Terry Whalin is an editor and author of more than 60 books and has written for more than 50 magazines. Several of Terry's books have sold over 100,000 copies. To all of the aspiring authors and those who have already been published, you will increase your knowledge about publishing from our guest today, Terry Whalin. Because of the common misconceptions and conflicting information about publishing, many authors are left confused when it is time to publish their book. These authors often focus only on the content of their book, but either ignore or do not fully understand the business side of publishing. This is where Terry Whalin will help you. Authors need to be realistic. Oh, that's quite the statement, underlined, and well informed about the publishing industry that they are entering.
Have you ever felt like giving up, quitting, throwing in the towel? Welcome to Never Ever Give Up Hope featuring Carol Graham. She's an author, health coach, and motivational speaker. Backed into a corner multiple times in her life, Carol shares with you stories on how she overcame some of the toughest obstacles a person can go through in life, but refused to give up hope. Rather than admit defeat, an opportunity was presented, and it involves each and every one of you. Carol will feature spectacular guests who will share their messages of hope, encouragement, and their inspiration to prove why life's adversities only make you stronger. And now, welcoming the host of the show, here's Carol Graham.
Carol, wonderful to be here with you today. Thank you.
Start from the beginning. Tell us your background, why you decided to write this book, whatever you would like to share. We're on the edge of our seat.
Okay. I've been in publishing a long time. I wrote my first book in 1999, a little children's book that I did because I was at a writers' conference. And I always encourage authors to go to writers' conferences because you can meet so many people that could be important in your life. And as I was walking around that conference, an editor nabbed me because I'd started to write for magazines back then. And she said, "Terry, I have a problem." I'm like, "Well, I always listen when these editors tell me their problem." And she said, "I'm a children's editor at David C. Cook, and we have a line of children's books, but our mission as a publisher is to lead these children to help them know that there's a world out there that needs Jesus. And we don't have a single book that talks about that."
Really?
So what kind of ideas do you have? Well, at that time, my kids were little, and I was reading lots of children's books to them. And I knew that Stephen Lawhead, he published under these children's books under his name, Steve. He's a fantasy writer, had this set of children's books that Lion did called Howard Had a Hot Air Balloon, Howard Had a Spaceship. And those books combined a cartoon character with real pictures to show kids, to help them with their imagination. And so I said, "Hey, what if we combined our real pictures at Wycliffe with a little cartoon character to show kids different occupations and how they could go anywhere?" And she looked at me and she said, "That's a good idea, Terry. Write that up and send that to me." And so I made a little note and I wrote that up and sent it to her. And we went back and forth, but ultimately that became my first book that was published in 1992. I'm thinking, it was 1992, little children's book that I did called When I Grow Up, I Can Go Anywhere for Jesus. And so it combined real pictures from Wycliffe with a cartoon character. And so that book sort of launched some of my book publishing things that I've done. And I've written all kinds of books, children's books, co-authored books, devotional books, biographies, all kinds of things through the years. And I've had great opportunities. now as an editor at Morgan James Publishing, I'm working in my third publishing house as an editor. I go to these conferences and I listen to writers and they tell me their idea and I listen and I say, that's a really good idea. Write that up and send that to me. But what I realize is that probably only about 10% of those authors, 10 or 15% of those authors that I say that to actually send it to me.
Really?
Now I go home, I follow up, I encourage them to send it to me, all that stuff, but they still don't do it. Now, I don't know what happens, when they're afraid or they, get busy and they're behind or whatever happens, but they just don't follow up. So one of the ways that every writer can, be an exception here is just to do what the editor asks them to do. And so if they ask you to send it, send it.
Wow.
It's that easy.
Yeah, yeah. As an editor, which one of the biggest errors that authors have for expectations for their books?
Yeah, for expectations for their books, Carol, I've written this book called 10 Publishing Myths, Insights Every Author Needs to Succeed. And I wrote that book because I hear all these unrealistic expectations from authors all the time about their book. And there's so much in the publishing process that's outside of our control as an author of anything that we can do. I mean, I can't get a publisher to publish your book. I can't get you to sign the contract that they send you. I can't get a bookstore to order your book. I mean, there's all kinds of things that I can't do. But I really tried to emphasize in this book the things that authors can do with their books, because there are some things you can take control over. And I would say one of the biggest myths that authors have is that I will make a lot of money with my book. Now, I don't care how you're publishing your book, whether you're self-publishing or whether you're going with a big 5 New York publishing house or somewhere in between there. All these authors in general believe that they're going to make a lot of money with their books, and that you may make a lot of money. I don't know, but that's not really the typical. That shouldn't be your first reason why you're publishing your book. You're publishing your book to establish yourself as an authority, to open other doors in your life, because you have a book, you can get on podcasts like this and radio shows and speaking engagements. All kinds of things can happen because you have a book. Now, those are all good reasons to do a book, but not necessarily because I'm going to make a lot of money. Yeah. The other thing that's a variable in this how I will make a lot of money factor is who you publish with is pretty important. And I find a lot of authors they don't even do a simple thing like put the name of their publishing house into a Google search engine and add the word complaints and see what comes up. And if you get pages and pages of complaints from authors, that should be a red flag to you that maybe you shouldn't work with these people,
Wow.
but people don't do that. And so, I've met authors that have spent, $15,000, $20,000, to self-publish their book, which sounds ridiculous, but people do it. And then they expect to make money doing that. I mean, they've published with the wrong company for one thing, and there's nothing I can do about that.
Right. So is this why you wrote 10 Publishing Myths?
Yeah, I wrote this book really to help authors have realistic expectations, but also realize that there are some things, they're proactive things that they can do in this process. So that was the emphasis of my chapters. Each chapter was to throw out the myth, but then also to give them practical information of what they could do. Because, like one of the myths is that my publisher will market and promote my book. Well, that's a myth, because sure, your publisher they have a vested interest in your book. and they're gonna promote it. They're gonna do something, but you can't really depend on them in that sense.
Mhm.
So, I mean, like at Morgan James, for example, where I work, we publish somewhere between 180 and 200 books a year. So, we actually have a divided interest, in our books. So
Right.
you can't count on us to really be the chief marketer and promoter of your book. You as the author have to take that on, whether you want to or not, at the end of the day.
Was there a time when you wanted to throw in the towel and say, just be discouraged, etc.? Is there any stories that you can share about what you personally went through as you were going this journey?
Oh yeah, I've been rejected a lot through the years, and I still get rejected, believe it or not, all the time. But the real wake up moment for me happened in 2007. I was running a little literary agency in Scottsdale, Arizona, and Mark Victor Hansen, the co-author on Chicken Soup for the Souls, was having this event out in Los Angeles called Mega Book Marketing University. He invited me to come, and so I came out there and I took pitches from people during the event. But at that point in my life, Carol, I'd written about 50 books for traditional publishers. So a couple of my books, got six-figure advances. They were making pretty books. They were putting them in the bookstore, all that kind of thing. But when you write books like that for traditional publishers, once a year, maybe quarterly, they will send you a financial statement about how your books are doing. Well, I was getting my financial statements, and all of mine were in the minus category because they weren't making money. And I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong. I must be doing something wrong in this process. So while I was at Mega Book Marketing University, I decided to sit there there were 400 people that were there, and listen to the speakers and try to figure out what I wasn't doing that I should be doing.
Right.
One of the speakers there was Jack Canfield, the other co-author on Chicken Soup
Right.
for the Soul. And Jack has this book that I have on my shelf called The Success Principles. Now, the very first success principle in that book says that I will take 100% responsibility for my own success.
Mm.
Now, none of us want to take 100% responsibility. We want somebody else to do that for us. But I realized as I was sitting there listening to Jack, how little I was personally doing to be telling people about my book. Sure, I had a terrywhalin.com website, and publishers were making pretty books. They were putting it in the bookstore, but I was doing just almost nothing to be telling people about my book. So I decided to take 100% responsibility for my own success. So I started blogging back then. They say there's over 600 million blogs that are out there at this point.
Right.
But I have this little device that searches for my name out there online. And about a year ago, I found this article. It listed the top 27 content producers out there. And my name was one of the top 27 content producers.
Oh my goodness.
And it's not that I'm doing anything magical here. I'm just blogging every week. And
Right.
so since 2004, I've been blogging to my audience every week. And I have over 1,700 entries in my blog. So there's a lot of information over there in that blog on the writing life. And, it's a kind of thing that any author can do, but you've got to be consistent and persevere and find your right path. That's part of the whole journey that we're on here. And so that was really a wake up moment for me. And my, my earning situation on my books has turned around over the years because I'm proactively looking for things like your podcast here. I want to be on this podcast so that I can be telling people about my book. And so even for 10 Publishing Myths here, Carol, I've set up a special site that people can go to where they can get my book for only $10. And that includes the shipping, along with over $200 worth of bonuses. Now, these are not just funky bonuses. I mean, one of the bonuses, for example, I interviewed a friend of mine that's sold thousands of books to public libraries. It's a self-published book. How did he do that? Well, he gives all the details about what he did day in and day out to sell those books to public libraries. It's a pattern that other people could follow if they want to do that. So you can get my book, like I say, for only $10 if you go to publishingoffer.com. And I hope people will do that, because I really want to help them with this book.
So what is the myth buster action, MBA, in each chapter of your book?
Yeah, that's great, because each chapter I do have this myth buster action where I really give the reader a practical step of something that they could take and they can do to really get out there and sell their book at the end of the day. So I talk to authors all the time, Carol, and one author will tell me, well, my audience is over on Facebook, or my audience is on YouTube or Instagram, or you name the social media site. Well, those are all great. I mean, you want to use those, but in the business, we call those rented platforms, because I don't control Facebook or Instagram or any of those places. As a matter of fact, I could knowingly or unknowingly violate their terms and get kicked off of there tomorrow. So you don't want to build your stuff over there. You want to build your stuff where you can control it. So you want to build your own website, your own blog, your own newsletter, things that you can control. And those are the kinds of actions that I build into these myth buster actions that I have. I tell you, the great quote that I use often is from the great circus promoter, P.T. Barnum. Carol, he said that without promotion, something terrible happens. Nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
And all of us have to experiment and try.
Yes.
I mean, there is no path to having a best-selling, successful book. There are just practices that all of us experiment with. We try one thing and that doesn't succeed, so we try something else. That's the journey that we're all on here with our books.
But I also think that even though we try many things and they all do succeed, then we continue doing even more.
Yeah, that's right too. If you find something that is getting you traction, then those are the things you could do. Right. So, for example, I just came on Podmatch here to
yes
get on podcasts, and so I've actually booked or been on over 50 podcasts in the last 6 months, and it's because I'm using that tool, podmatch.com, and it's really been great for this. It's a matter of persevering and being consistent and finding your right path.
What is the most important attribute to become a successful author? Aha.
Carol Graham would like to show you the path from misery to miraculous triumph in her fast-paced memoir, Battered Hope. She relates her determination to succeed as someone who experienced one horrendous nightmare after another. Gang raped and left for dead, loss of a child, husband falsely imprisoned, and cancer. Nothing could break her tenacity or faith. No matter what you face, heartache, loss, suffering, or injustice, Carol will illustrate how she became a victor the same way you can. The secret is to never, ever give up hope. Order your copy at Amazon or batteredhope.com.
Well, I think one of the most important attributes is just to understand that there's only one person on the planet that you have any control over, and that's you. And so you need to take your own actions day in and day out. So that consistency, that perseverance is really the journey that we're all on here. And like I say, I get rejected a lot on different things that I try that don't work, but I still am going forward and going ahead with it. So those are the kinds of attitudes that all of us need to sort of dig deep and find those. And they've done personality studies with authors, Carol. Most of us are introverts. I mean, I put myself in that category. I would just as soon, sit in the corner and read a book than stand up in front of people and talk. But I do stand up in front of people and talk and tell my stories because I know that's a part of the journey.
What is a simple way an author can check out a potential publisher? Huge question.
Yeah, the simplest way is to use that Google device that I was talking about before, just to put the publisher's name in along with the word complaint and see what comes up. Because it's amazing to me. I meet these people that, their book is going to be a bestseller. And then I look at who is publishing the book, and it's them, or it's some online platform that publishes 20,000 books a year and has no books in bookstores. That's going to be hard for that book to become a bestseller.
Okay, good point. And tell us about platforms and why an author needs one.
Well, a platform is very important, and that's like, when they build a speaking platform, they'll build a raised platform that you stand on to speak or to sit on or something like that. And that's really what, in a sense, in an imaginary way, you're doing with your own connections to people. So that's important. Publishers want to know, how big your email list is, and what kind of connections do you have on LinkedIn, and how many Facebook friends do you have, how many Instagram followers do you have, all those kinds of things. And it's not that social media sells a lot of books. What social media does, the reason publishers want to know that information is because we've pretty much proven, Carol, that somebody has to hear about your book 8, 9, maybe a dozen times before they say, 10 publishing myths, I should buy that book. And so you don't want to just send messages out, buy my book, buy my book. Nobody cares about that. But what you really want to emphasize on your social media are the benefits of what people are going to gain by reading your book. And so that's why, after our podcast launches here, I'm going to be continuing to promote this, because people can learn a lot just from listening to this podcast, and they can learn about my book and say, 10 publishing myths.
Right.
Go to that publishingoffer.com and get that book from Terry.
Absolutely. Yeah. Exposure. 100%. Yes. And it's 10 times that you said, right? That people need to see something before they take action. Is that the
at least 10, and it could be all kinds of things that can feed into this. I mean, a couple of my best-selling author friends, for example, launched a book in early July. They sent it to me. Now I'm going to write them a book review. I haven't gotten that review written yet, but I went over and looked on their Amazon page and on their Goodreads page. They have 0 book reviews. Well, that's not a good sign because
no kidding.
They've pretty much proven that most people that are going to buy a product online are going to read a review before they buy the book. So you have to work as an author to get those book reviews, get your friends, get your family, get people to write something out there to say why they should buy your book. And it is complicated to get those book reviews, but if you work at it, you can certainly get them.
And it's amazing that the number of books, I just speak again from my own experience, of the number of books you sell really don't parallel the number of reviews you get, do they? I mean, I find that you think all these people that buy your book would certainly leave a review. What would you say the percentage is? Like 10% maybe, if that?
Oh, it's pretty small. It's pretty small. A lot of people don't know what to write. They don't think about doing it. There's all kinds of excuses that they have, but you have to ask people and encourage people to write those book reviews. There's a verse in the book of James in the Bible that says you have not because you ask not. So we as writers need to be bold, and we need to ask people for their help. We need to ask them to help us get some book reviews out there. We need to ask well-known people to endorse our book. All those kinds of things are easy steps that you as an author can take that'll make a big difference in your book at the end of the day.
Great advice. Excellent. And what about self-publishing? Is that the best route to go for a new author?
Well, some people feel like that's their only option out there because maybe they don't have a big platform, and maybe they can't get a literary agent and they can't get a traditional house interested in their stuff. But there are other options out there. Self-publishing, the big problem with that is you're doing it all yourself. and maybe you're only on Amazon. At Morgan James, where I work, for example, our model is really more of a independent publisher type of model. I spend a lot of time on the phone with my authors explaining all the distinctions and all that. But Amazon is a big customer of Morgan James, but they're only 24% of our overall business. So the way I look at it, you publish with Amazon, you're missing 76% of what we do for the book out there. I mean,
Wow.
we're selling our books into 98% of the bookstores in North America, including the brick and mortar stores. So we're on over 180 online platforms. I mean, the other day I was looking for one of our book covers, Carol, and the very first place I found it was at Target.com because we sell books at Target. so you really want to look at the different options and figure out what the best one is for you. I mean, it's very easy when you self-publish. By the time everything's said and done, to spend $10, $15, $20,000 into that process, and you're just still on your own. I don't think that's the best way to go. But hey, after working at Morgan James for the last 13 years, I'm a little prejudiced about what we do, but we're making some great books out there at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I thank you for that. That's excellent information for any new author. Thank you. Thank you. Is there a formula for a book to become a bestseller? How often are you asked that?
Well, there are successful practices, I guess is what I'd say. And the one that a lot of people kind of downplay and don't think is very important is email newsletters. I mean, almost every author can launch an email newsletter, and they need to be doing that to be building their platform, building their audience, build their readership, build those relationships with people. Though that's a simple thing. Blogging is still good. I'm still blogging. I think everybody should be blogging still. It's a way to build readers. It's a way to get more people on your newsletter subscriber list. There's a lot of simple things like that you can do. I mean, people forget, Carol, that those Chicken Soup for the Soul authors that I mentioned, Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield, they got rejected over 160 times.
Wow.
And they finally found the little publisher in Florida that was going to publish their book. And so they signed the contract with that publisher, and they told their publisher they were going to sell 1 million books during the first year. Well, that publisher laughed at them. They thought that was a ridiculous idea. They never sold 1 million copies of anything. It took them 1.5 years to sell their first 1 million books.
Wow.
But these guys practiced what they call the rule of 5. They got up every day and they did 5 things to be telling people about their book. They did a podcast, a radio show, a newspaper article, a magazine article, a guest blog post, a live event. I mean, there's dozens of things you can do, but they did those things consistently every day, 5 of them every day. Those are the kind of things that all of us can do as authors. Sure, it takes work. It takes, effort on your part, but you can certainly do that.
And if you don't, there's no excuse.
That's right. That's right.
What you are saying works. And thank you. Thank you for that confirmation. You've just given me new, what do you call it? Inspiration and all those other fantastic words.
That's
All
great.
right. What is one of the most effective ways for writers to reach their audience? Anything else than what you've told us already?
Well, there's dozens of ways, but I just encourage you to keep looking for different options. Creating business cards, for example. I still have those. I carry them with me and I hand them out to people when I'm at the post office or wherever. Just really, as you engage people, make sure you give them a way to reconnect with you.
Right.
I mean, it's amazing to me, Carol. I've been to writers' conferences for years here, and I'll show up at these conferences, and people don't even have business cards. Even the editors sometimes, oh, I forgot it. That's what they say. And I'm like,
Wow.
wow, why should you do that? I mean, I hand mine out like candy almost to everybody because I want people to be able to reach me and come back, and so I can help them later on if they need my help.
I do that with pens. Have you had anybody do that? I give people pens that has my information on it. It's something they
Yeah,
won't throw away.
yeah, that's true. I've seen those. I've never used pens personally myself, but yeah, that's a great way too.
Whatever will be in their face, right? I mean,
Yeah,
how often
some
don't you pick a pen up from the insurance agency and look at the name? You know,
that's right. That's right. Absolutely.
this
That's
is a
great.
nice pen. And why did you write the 11th myth? And tell us about it.
Yeah, as I was gathering the endorsements for this 10 publishing myths book, Alice Kreider, who is an acquisitions editor, when she sent me back her endorsement, she said, Terry, you're missing the 11th myth. I'm like, okay, I'll bite. Alice, what's the 11th myth? She said, well, the 11th myth should be that if I send my book to Oprah Winfrey, she'll book me on her show. And I'm like,
Oh,
well, yeah, that's a pretty good myth, Alice. And so what I decided to do, Carol, is I decided as I was writing this book to write that extra chapter. And so when we designed the book, we designed this chapter to look exactly like the rest of the book. And I give that myth away free. You can go to terrylinks.com/11th myth, 11th myth, and put your first name and your email address in there. And then you'll get this 11th myth from me completely free. But and really, Oprah Winfrey, what people don't know about her is she's got this big warehouse in Chicago that people send her stuff all the time, and she organizes that. And a couple of times a year, she gives it all away. Is that where you want your book to go? I don't think
oh,
so. I think you should
right.
do something else with it that is really more productive and more valuable for you than to take a chance and send it to Oprah at the end of the day.
Good point. Wow. So, what have we missed? Anything? What would you like to share?
Well, I just like to share that I've been in some of the top literary agencies and editorial offices in this country. And as authors, we get rejected or ghosted all the time. Maybe you send your stuff to people and they don't even respond. And you think, well, gee, they didn't read it. They don't care about what I sent them, all that stuff. Well, what I want to tell you is that when I'm in these top literary agencies, they're all looking, they're all asking me, Terry, where's the next best-selling nonfiction book? Where's the best-selling novel? Where's the next best-selling children's book? So that shows me that they may not be responding to you. They may be telling you their client list is full or whatever excuse they're giving you, but they're actually reading all that. they're looking for the diamond in the rough. They're looking for the next book that they can move forward. So you want to grab onto that and understand that even if you're being ghosted or rejected, you should still keep at it, because you need that right connection, and it's definitely out there for you, but you have to keep at it to find it.
I think also what I'm hearing you saying is you can't take it personally and get
Oh, that
depressed about it.
that's right. That's right. It's business, not personal. It's very easy to take it personal. It's like,
Yes,
oh,
yes, yeah,
they attacked me, but they didn't really at the end of the day. I really
exactly.
like what Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen used to say to each other when they got rejected. And 160 times, that's a lot of rejection. But what they did is they would look at each other every time and use one word. And that word they would say to each other is next.
Oh my goodness, I've heard that. Yes,
It's
yes,
like, oh, it's
yes,
like, okay, this didn't work. Where's
right.
the next
Yep.
opportunity? And that means that you don't just stick that rejected thing back in a file folder in your desk, but you're looking ahead to see what the next opportunity is.
I love that. I actually have that on my desk. I don't remember where I got it from, but yeah, it's a huge encouragement for those who have, met with rejection. So absolutely. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. There's nothing else, or if you can think of any other story or any success that you might want to share about one author in particular, or anything that you would like to share before we close.
Well, I enjoy so much working with a lot of these different authors that I work with, and they're doing all kinds of books. Carol, they're doing novels, they're doing children's books, they're doing nonfiction books, they're doing Christian books, they're doing general market books. There's all kinds. There's a world of opportunity out there. I was listening to a webinar about a year ago where Marcus Duhay, who's just stepped back from being the chief executive officer at Penguin Random House, the largest publisher in the world. He said on this webinar that we live in one of the greatest times in human history since Gutenberg invented the printing press.
Huh.
And I believe that's true. You just think of the power and the opportunity that you have with your little cell phone that you carry with you, and how you can reach people all around the world just with that little device. But you have to be doing something. You have to be proactive, taking action consistently for that to happen. But the opportunity is certainly there if you want to seize it.
You have been such an encouragement to me personally, and I also am 100% confident to my audience. I thank you for this. I look forward to sharing it because there's so many people out there that need to hear what you shared today. And I just appreciate your down to earthness, if there's such an expression, where because some people think, well, it's all out there, and I can't do it. And you just made it so basic, so simple, so down to earth that you have to be half dead not to take advantage of all the tidbits that you've given us today. And I took dozens of notes. I assume that everybody listening has done that as well. So again, I thank you so much, Terry. You have given me great hope today for the future in this area. And I thank you for being on Never, Ever Give Up Hope.
Well, thank you, Carol. I appreciate the opportunity. And if anybody wants to reach me, that's why I put my email address right into my X Twitter profile. It says how I like to help authors. How can I help you? And I give my personal email, terry@terrywhalin.com is the way they can reach me. And I answer my email. I really do look at those emails. And so I try to be one of the most accessible people in publishing, because I really do want to help people succeed with their books.
Well, that comes across. And you said it right there. You respond. So many people do not respond. And that should be number one. We respond to those who reach out to us. And I thank you for that encouragement for that as well.
Thank you for listening to Never Ever Give Up Hope, featuring Carol Graham. Did you know that most people succeed because they are determined to? Quitting was never an option. Carol loves your comments and will respond to each one. So please subscribe and review this podcast. A rating of 5 stars would be outstanding and appreciated. Remember, if you are still here, there is always hope.